Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Introduction to AI for Donegal Businesses workshop webinar. My name is Stephen Perry. I'm a business advisor with the local enterprise office, and I'm delighted to say there's been huge interest in this session, and I suppose in AI in general recently. It's getting huge attention, and I suppose while there is some skepticism and fear around AI, and with good reason, I suppose, it also presents huge opportunities, and we're really keen for businesses in Donegal to get a head start and to understand how they can use and maximize this to their potential. Today's session will provide an introduction to an overview of artificial intelligence. We'll look at ChatGPT, one of probably the best known and most publicized platforms for artificial intelligence, and practical use cases. After a break, we'll then look at Auto GPT and advanced AI, followed by a Q&A session. We'll be sending around a survey and polls during the event, and would really appreciate feedback to see if there's appetite to provide further support on this area. I'll now hand you over to our moderator for today, Jordan Casey. Despite his young age, he already has a wealth of experience in the tech space. He's a global speaker and ambassador. He works in AI and automations has worked in AI and automations for the last 2 years. He's also founder of Spreo, hope I pronounced that correct, Jordan, .ai, an AI driver CRM for manufacturers and distributors. So safe to say you're in good hands with Jordan.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Appreciate that. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the workshop. Very excited about this. As Stephen said there, I'm going to basically run you through an introduction into artificial intelligence with a particular angle towards supporting small businesses in Donegal. So before we get into the nitty gritty of AI and ChatGPT, I'm going to run you through a quick running order of how we'll plan the day out, and then a bit of an introduction into myself, some of the different projects I'm working on, before a deep dive into AI and what it is, how it works, the history of it, and why it seems to be blowing up into the mainstream over the past couple of months, the last year or so. As Stephen mentioned, then we'll run into ChatGPT, which is sort of the most mainstream use case of AI and one of the most effective tools. We'll run through some different scenarios, different industries, different businesses, and how they can each use ChatGPT to their best effect. After that, quick break, just a small reflection before getting into some of the more advanced AI tools and services that are a bit more niche. So we won't go into them in as much depth as we will with ChatGPT, but it's just sort of to give an overview or a run through of all the different types of tools that are out there. And then hopefully at the end, I'd like to leave a bit of time for a Q&A or feedback session. I would love to answer some of your questions, any specific areas you'd like me to cover, and hopefully inspire a little bit of debate, discussion around the future of AI. So before jumping into it again, just a brief introduction to me. I'm a 23-year-old entrepreneur and software engineer. I'm from Waterford City, but I'm currently based in London. I've got 15 years experience in the Irish technology space. I first started writing computer code when I was 9 years old, and over the years, I've been very lucky to have worked in a plethora of different technical industries, from gaming to education to gamification, and so much more. As well as that, I'm a global speaker and ambassador. I've traveled a lot the last sort of 10 years promoting youth entrepreneurship, tech literacy in young people, and also just sharing my story. I've also worked with the likes of the European Commission and the government of Dubai in various digital agendas and digital policy issues. So I've been fascinated by the world of AI and automation for the last 2 years. I feel as young people or people in business that have access to technology and the internet, I feel it's such a powerful tool, and I think AI and what's going to happen in the next couple of years is just going to blow that out of the water even more. And I think we live in a very interesting time, because I think AI is moving so quickly, and now is the perfect opportunity to leverage that and get ahead. And so one of the projects that I'll speak about a little bit later is Spreo.ai, which aims to be fully fledged one-stop shop for small businesses to leverage AI and to use it in every aspect of their business. So that's a brief introduction to me. Without further ado, let's kick off with the first module of today. So what is AI? This brief module will briefly talk about the history of AI, what it is, what it means, and again why it's exploded so much over the past year or so. So without getting too heavy, let's talk a little bit about what is AI. So AI, or artificial intelligence, refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines that are programmed to think and learn like humans. So robots and sentient machines have been a source of human fiction and movies and TV shows for nearly 100 years. And I guess the initial sort of breakthrough in artificial intelligence, or using machines to replicate human activity and human function, um, came around the wartime with Alan Turing and what he was doing. But the first sort of initialization or push to create a community around artificial intelligence happened at the Dartmouth Conference in the United States in 1956. And AI essentially is about creating machines that can think and learn like humans. So by combining the power of computer algorithm, looping, power and speed, science and math, and other fields to develop and mimic and replicate what we as humans, I guess, do. And so AI, we see it in so many different areas in the world today. Many times we don't recognize, but it can range from very simple rule-based systems and loops and rules and functions to advanced learning methods to deep data machine learning. And that's what we're sort of seeing now with the onset of ChatGPT and how it feels like we're actually communicating and working and functioning alongside another human or another sentient being, I guess. Um, so these machines allow us to learn from data, recognize patterns, and make decisions on what the machines have taught themselves, essentially. And so AI is used in various industries at a mainstream level, like healthcare, finance, transportation, of course. And the main function of it is to improve efficiency, make better decisions, and obviously to automate tasks, I guess, being one of the big ones. And right now, in the sort of space that we live in terms of AI and how it's sort of catapulted to the mainstream, it has a huge potential to transform our lives in many ways, but also I think a lot quicker than people might actually realize. And again, one of the reasons why we're having this workshop today is to help you guys get ahead and help you guys get up to speed with what's happening in the field. So let's have a look at some brief AI use cases that we can all sort of relate to and understand now. So one of the most common uses of AI on the internet right now is customer service and chatbots. So you land on any sort of website these days, and you get a little chat in the bottom of the screen. Generally speaking, it's usually some sort of artificial intelligence or chatbot. Recommendation systems, so how we have Amazon and Netflix. And the likes of sort of Spotify, using artificial intelligence to learn your habits, learn your interests, and make recommendations to you from there. Autonomous vehicles, so Tesla are a big driver in the self-driving car movement, and Elon Musk is a huge proponent of AI, and we'll get into his opinion on all things artificial intelligence a little later. But it's a huge developer of AI. Tesla are probably one of the biggest sort of players in the space, although obviously we generally would see them as just a motor company or a car company, whereas in actual fact, Tesla and their value, a lot of it stems from their ability to be as a data company and the data that they collect. Other use cases are fraud detection, detecting habits, virtual assistants, and I feel like ChatGPT is sort of learning and going down that route as well as a virtual assistant or a virtual helper. And then personalized marketing, and it's a little bit like what we mentioned there about recommendation systems and how computers are learning your habits and making recommendations based on that. So in its most simple case, that's how AI is currently used across the space and technology. um, a brief history then, just as we spoke in the 1950s, the Dartmouth conference was sort of the first sort of building block for establishing modern day AI research. In the 70s, we got into the general problem solver, which is an algorithm that enables computers to solve general logic problems, and basically created the basis points for what we know as the personal computer. In the 1980s and the 1990s, we saw new technologies like backpropagation, which was sort of the first instance of training machines to learn off one another. And again, similar in the 1990s as a modern day basis through reinforcement for trial and error training. The 2000s was a big one, especially towards the late as we became exposed to the world of big data and big data and the possibilities that opened up by being able to give these machines and computers such a plethora of information. And combining that big data with what we've previously seen in the 80s and the 90s in terms of these algorithms that have forced computers to learn off of one another, when combined with such a massive data set in big data, that led on to a resurgence in neural networks and also with these deep learning patterns. So a little bit technical. On its most basic level, AI right now is just a combination of a huge amount of resources and data and computers that are just learning off one another and growing very fast. So the 2020s and where we're at now has seen a compounding, an exponential rate of growth and innovation in the artificial intelligence space, and all sort of factors and indicators point to AI being the sort of next big technology to explode over the next couple of years. And what it's introduced is a huge amount of tools. It's brought AI to the mainstream and to the forefront, where many people are now being exposed to the possibilities rather than just a select few people that work in technology or development or happen to have access to these computers and these tools. And I feel now that AI has sort of been unlocked and open to everyone. And so what we're seeing, especially over the last year or so, is a lot of big corporations and big technology companies taking what they've been building for many years in artificial intelligence and releasing that to the masses in their tools, in their products. Um, and as you can see, the middle one there is ChatGPT, and that's been developed by a company called OpenAI. And I guess they really instigated that introduction of artificial intelligence to the mainstream by presenting this little tool, which we'll definitely get into in a couple of minutes, and opening their data network to everyone. And as we can see over the past few months, Microsoft have started to introduce GPT's model into their Bing search. Spotify, again, as we mentioned, use AI to make recommendations and put interesting music in front of your face that they think you'll like based on their artificial intelligence. Amazon, again, with their recommendations. Intercom, which are a very successful Irish company, have recently introduced a new chatbot feature called Fin, which basically allows businesses to run their entire customer service outputs through AI. And last month, we saw Google launch Bard, which is their direct ChatGPT competitor. And we'll get into all of these as well. And Snapchat, I'm not sure if many of you guys use Snapchat, but they've also introduced an AI feature that allows you to chat and have banter with a robot on their screen. So those are some of the tools that have sort of come to the fore, especially over the last 6 or 7 months, all instigated again by ChatGPT and what OpenAI have been doing with that. I like to put AI in the category as a black swan event. I think what has happened with AI just in these last 6 months and the exponential growth has been pretty unprecedented. I look to other black swan events, especially in the world of technology, such as the sort of foundation and the mainstream launch of the internet, which was sort of in the World Wide Web, which was sort of in the early 90s, and how I guess the internet sort of encompassed or took over the world in maybe a span of 20 years. And then the second black swan event I would put down to technology is the iPhone or the modern day smartphone, which I guess took maybe less than 10 years to sort of completely take over the industry and sort of take over most of our lives. And I would put AI in that category. The only difference I see in that is that it's just going to come on a lot quicker. So if you look at this little graphic here, you can see GPT-3, which was the sort of artificial intelligence model that powers ChatGPT. And when that first launched in October, November last year, there was 175 billion data endpoints, which essentially is sort of a quantifiable look at how much knowledge this bot has. And as you can see on the circle on the right, GPT-4, which was their second model, which only launched 3 months later, it had 100 trillion data endpoints. And so just to see the rate of growth from their first model, which launched in October, and their second model, which is still sort of in a sort of testing phase, but launched pretty much in January, February time, and how quickly things are progressing and how quickly it's just going to explode. I think just demonstrates how important it is to sort of encapsulate and understand artificial intelligence. Whilst it's a very, very exciting area to be in, and I think the main sort of message of today's workshop is a positive one, and how exciting and how it could definitely boost efficiency in your business and support idea generation in other areas. There are a couple of ethical issues surrounding AI that has sort of come into the mass conversation. Some of the sort of more literal ones are around accountability and transparency. So, for example, AI systems can sometimes make complex decisions that are very difficult or sort of hard to interpret and explain. And so sometimes there can be a lack of accountability and transparency. And by creating these new tools like ChatGPT, which mimic sort of human interactions that we're used to, it is helping with that. But at the same time, it's hard to distinguish where these answers and where these sort of solutions have come from, and what the basis is behind them. The second one is bias and fairness. So AI algorithms can sort of inadvertently inherit and perpetuate biases present in the data that they are trained on. And so if the training data is biased itself, the AI system can make discriminatory decisions or reinforce existing sort of societal inequalities. And I think this is another really important one. Most of the artificial intelligence that we're seeing right now is, of course, being developed and run by private corporations. And it's very, very important to encourage innovation and encourage new development in this new tool. But at the same time, I think there should be a little bit of oversight as we sort of get to see how quickly it's developing and how fast it's coming, that the impact it'll have on us as humans is so great, whilst at the same time it's important that we can't just have that being run by sort of one big private organization. And the third one, I guess, is not a hugely well, it is an ethical issue, but I think it does itself justice by sort of mimicking humans. But AI is, as albeit currently unintentionally, because of course they're imitating humans, and humans also like to lie, but they do have the ability to often supply false information. And so detecting accuracy is another issue that can arise. And I do definitely preface this as we sort of get into the world of ChatGPT later on, that everything you see is not always 100% accurate. Definitely take some of the answers with a pinch of salt. I think it's really, really important to stress that whatever information you do get from ChatGPT, or however you use it, in sensitive issues or in sensitive cases, such as, I guess, tax, finance, areas like that, I would definitely not see it as a sort of direct replacement or anything. I think you should use it to its advantage for sort of efficiency reasons, but don't believe everything you get from it, because obviously there is an element of bias and fairness in there, and there is also a tendency, especially in this early stage development, that AI does like to lie a bit. There are a huge amount of other ethical issues. I guess one that sort of comes into the fore is how AI and advanced artificial intelligence also has the ability to sort of provide fake news, like we've seen over the past year or so, like the mass improvement in deep fake technology and the ability for artificial intelligence to imitate notable celebrities, political figures. It can be a little bit dangerous, and so there are detection systems that are being created. Other issues are questions about how AI will be able to sort of reinforce defense and areas like that, which are obviously all interesting conversations to have. Where I feel like we're a little bit away from those sort of concerns, but as I said, I think the right balance with regulation is crucial here. As I mentioned, Elon Musk earlier is a huge proponent of AI through what he's doing with Tesla, and he's also one of the co-founders of OpenAI, who do develop the ChatGPT. But one of the issues that he's had is again that private ownership, that ability to develop whatever technology people see fit, and with the advancement of AI and how quickly it's growing. Um, it does pose some problems, but I think what has to happen is there has to be a right balance between innovation and allowing these technology companies to develop these amazing tools that we could use with some degree of oversight because of just how powerful the technology is. Um, so I think on that, just before we get into the world of ChatGPT and how we can all use that in our own situations. Uh, like what I said, we're in a very, very, very interesting time in artificial intelligence. It's just sort of burst into the mainstream, and I think it presents a huge opportunity again for small businesses to use it to their best advantage with any business situation, to improve efficiency, to support idea generation, marketing, and general oversight. And I think it's crucial that we now live in a time of sort of AI complementarianism, where we as humans are getting familiar with artificial intelligence and how it works. And so right now it sort of works on a trial and error basis, where we ask the artificial intelligence to perform a task for us. The artificial intelligence makes an attempt. We see the task, it is returned to us. We make adjustments to it, and we send it again. And so it works on this sort of trial and error basis. Whereas as this develops much quicker, um, that will start to fade, and AI will start to have a more deep understanding of what it is that you require in your business. And so I think getting in again right now to be able to get that understanding, it's sort of a now or never situation. And I guess without further ado, there we can begin and get into sort of the practical use cases, and the main one, of course, being ChatGPT. So, uh, as we just discussed there, it was a very, very sort of high level technical introduction to artificial intelligence, what it is, and where it's heading in the future. Like I said, though, ChatGPT has been the main proponent and the main sort of driver of artificial intelligence into the mainstream. And so, before we get into using it, for those of you who haven't used it, we'll just go through a very brief introduction into what it is. So, ChatGPT was launched in late 2022, October, November, by OpenAI, which were formerly a non-profit organization co-founded by Elon Musk, but have now transition to a private organization. It is seen as sort of the catalyst, as I said, of the AI explosion into the mainstream, and its back end, which are GPT-3 and 4, which we just demonstrated in the previous module, currently power the backbone of the vast majority of contemporary AI tools that have currently launched. So even as we mentioned, Bing and Microsoft's alternative and some of the technology that Google and Yahoo are introducing into their search products, GPT still serves as the backbone, and most of these companies are actually using OpenAI's technology to support their own. And so, at its most basic level, it is a one on one chat window, similar to what we'd see on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, where you have a regular conversation with an individual, you talk to it, you ask questions, and it responds back quickly. The only thing is, instead of chatting to one of your friends or a colleague, you're chatting with one of the most advanced intelligence sources in the world. And that can answer and support almost any question, any need, any industry, and any location to any specification. And so its ability to parse and understand even the most specific requirements is a gift. And as I do mention a little bit later on, it can also be a curse unless we provide the most specific requirements and prompts, which are how we basically deliver and tell ChatGPT what it is we want. It can veer in many directions due to its sheer power. And so the benefits of ChatGPT are almost endless, and it's still, I guess, very much in its infancy. But at a high level, the most um, the most exciting sort of benefits of ChatGPT are the following. So it's virtual assistant capabilities. So it has the ability to automate tasks, such as appointment scheduling, order tracking, basic troubleshooting, reducing some administrative burdens, content generation. So it's able to provide a vast array of engaging content that can be used in so many different areas for marketing campaigns or getting an understanding of the direction you're taking, social media posts, blog articles, and allows us to save time and keep a consistent brand voice. And again, one of the benefits of ChatGPT is that, unlike Google or Yahoo, where you might search for answers and find good resources, ChatGPT is able to do that as well, but at the same time apply the specifics to your business as much as you're willing to tell it. Market research, so it has an ability to analyze trends, customer preferences, and make recommendations based on valuable insights there. Also, idea generation, and this is how I use it quite a bit. It has the ability to support idea generation, provide creative advice, and also validation on your ideas based on data that it has built up against what you're thinking. And as I said there, knowledge application is a huge, huge benefit of ChatGPT as well. Unlike generic sort of tutorials and blogs that you might be able to find on Google and Yahoo, which of course will be quite good, ChatGPT does have that capability to apply these sort of knowledge sets and this information that you get from tutorials or blogs directly to your business, and directly like relative to what it is that you exactly want to get out of it. So we're going to sort of dive in a couple of minutes into ChatGPT and how it actually works. But I'm just going to open it up for a couple of minutes there to invite you guys to follow along and to engage with the tool itself. So if any of you guys there would like to use it with me, here's some of the steps in front of you. So the first one, if you're on desktop or Android or any mobile, you can just head to chat.openai.com, or you can download the ChatGPT app on the iPhone App Store. So they do happen to have an official tool on the iPhone App Store where you can use it, but there are some alternatives, especially for those of you using Google Play. If you just search GPT Chat or ChatGPT, most of the tools there that are free would allow you to use the exact same data set that we are. Once you've downloaded it, you can sign up for a free account, confirm your details, and then log in again at chat.openai.com. And also you can do so within the iPhone app. And then once you've got it set up and signed up, we can head into a new chat window and begin. So I'm just going to leave it for literally 2 minutes if anyone wants to get first. I also encourage anyone that has any questions along the way or is having any issues with setting up GPT. To the right of me, there's a chat box where you can put in some questions, or if you're having some issues with setting up, feel free to post in there. But yeah, I'm going to just give it a minute if anyone wants to get set up and download ChatGPT or sign up. Again, the steps are in front of you, and if you have any direct issues or questions, just pop them in the chat there, and I'll help where I can. So Okay. So yeah, you guys can, if you want me to help again, let me know. Well, going straight away with just a couple of brief brief areas I just want to cover before we start using it. So feel free in your own time then to also set up. Again, before we do go in, just a small warning that again the data that ChatGPT might provide you is not always 100% accurate. Oftentimes, it is an assessment, and at that, a very good one. And in most cases, it will offer some sort of helpful advice, but just in areas of sort of finance or tax or some of those more sensitive business areas, it can be a little bit inaccurate. And also for the free version that we're using, it had a cutoff point of last year, so it isn't in real time or it doesn't use the internet. Now, in saying that, the capabilities it has will make you feel as though it does. And GPT-4, the new version that's coming out soon, will have internet enablement. But for the moment, there is a cutoff point. So if you're asking it basically relevant questions or sort of date-based questions, just do take note of that. So before we dive in directly into ChatGPT, I just want to introduce you to the idea of prompts. And prompts are basically the input instructions or queries that we provide to ChatGPT to give a desired response. So in its most simple form, it's just the questions that we're asking it in the chat box and what we're asking it to do for us. And so prompts serve as the starting point for the model to generate a response. Um, Prompts, like as I said, it can be a gift or a curse, but prompts can be as simple as a single question or statement, or they can be more complex, incorporating context, multiple turns of conversation, dealing with lots of data. Um, but it is important to sort of get an understanding. And so, just comparing two different types of prompts right now, one simple and one a little bit more complex. So, like one question you could ask it, or what are some good restaurants in Donegal? Now, if you had a more specific or more drilling sort of desire, or wanted to get a more sort of relative answer, it's not really going to help you in that case. It's going to give you a list of some restaurants that you could potentially sort of go to. Whereas if you do have that more specific tool or task in mind, like similar to what we have here, a more detailed restaurant recommendation with some added context. And so, whilst these are very simple prompts, these are how exactly we'll apply it to the business situation as well. Um, and so, yeah, essentially, make sure that if it is a simple statement or it's something general you want to find out from it, by all means, it's not to discredit these prompts, but also if there is something that you want specifically, make sure to ask it that, because if you don't, you do have the ability to veer off. So let's break it into some case studies now. So there's a few case studies that will allow us to utilize ChatGPT itself in action. So I've created a couple of characters and a couple of businesses here, all with specific and unique case studies. And we're going to apply that to ChatGPT and see how it will help on our journey. So let's get into the first one right away. So the first case study is Wendy O'Neill, and Wendy O'Neill is an ambitious graduate who is about to embark on a new career path. Recently, she has harbored the idea for an online and physical store to sell unique children's clothing. So how can she utilize ChatGPT to support this ambition? And let's find out. So without further ado, I'm going to just briefly stop sharing the slides and move over to ChatGPT itself. So for those of you that might be operating on a desktop or in the browser, this is what you might see for ChatGPT. So it's a very straightforward couple of examples here, some capabilities and some limitations. So we've created a new chat now, and we're basically going to be operating as this Wendy O'Neill character. So let me just get it right into it. So I'm assuming now that I'm Wendy and I've just finished college. I'm looking to start a new business, um, and I want to begin that journey. So let's ask a very simple question like I'm Reese. I'm looking to open a children's clothing store in Ireland. What are the current popular themes or designs present in the children's clothing market? This will be the first question we'd ask Wendy wants to get an idea as to what are popular in her industry and what sort of clothes she should be looking out for and selling. So we can ask ChatGPT this question and await its response. So again, specify that it does have a language or a lot knowledge up cutoff point 2021. But as you can see, it begins to just generate a load of really useful information. So based on that one question, we've been given a couple of different options. So sustainable and organic clothes, gender neutral designs, animal and nature prints, character or storybook themes, retro and vintage styles, and personalized and customizable options. So that's a great first question we can ask. Next, I guess Wendy would like to find out some ideas for names or ideas for brand. So as we can see here, we've seen a couple of different themes, and in this case, we're going to say that Wendy wants to pursue the sort of animal and nature prints aspect. And so the next sort of challenge that she faces is creating a name for this business. And so we can then go on with our conversation with GPT and say, I'm going to focus on animal and nature prints. Give me some name idea suggestions based on this for my clothing store. So send that off to GPT again, gives it some time, and then it uses what we've given it. So we said we wanted to focus on animal and nature prints, and it's given us a whole list of really interesting ideas that we can then use. So wild sprouts, nature's nestlings, little safari, tiny trekkers, jungle jamboree, a really interesting list of names. And this is where I find GPT to be most useful in idea generation and validating that. So let's say we're going to take Little Safari. So we're going to run with that. So I'm going to run with the name Little Safari. Little Safari. Let's say, let's see how we'd like to market it, for example. So we can ask ChatGPT, what are some cost-effective marketing channels for reaching parents interested in this unique clothing set? And so we can run that to ChatGPT. And so congratulates us. And then we'll start to again apply the knowledge that it has to our specific situation. So it will give us as high level or as low level as we ask for. So in this case, it's been a bit of a more general question where we've just asked it for some effective marketing strategies. So social media marketing obviously would be a good one. Email marketing, influencer partnerships is a big one too. Community engagement and content marketing, referral programs. And so next, I guess we could ask it about online presence or how we should sell it. I'm new to the world of technology. What would be the easiest or best way to start selling my clothes online? Again, takes your unique situation and we'll start to give you ideas. So obviously one of those could be online marketplaces, e-commerce platforms, social media selling. So again, this is a more general one, but as I mentioned, based on the prompts and based on the information that you do want to acquire from ChatGPT, you can ask it very, very high detail questions. So say, for example, in this situation, we come across these e-commerce platforms and we're interested to see how ChatGPT will be able to allow us to sell. So we can take this e-commerce platform such as Shopify and ask it, how can I start selling on Shopify today? Guide me through the steps. Setting up Little Safari. And straight away, it'll take the question again, prompt the answer, but will give you a very, very detailed tutorial on exactly what you need to do. So you're signing up for Shopify, you're customizing your store, and again, is as much detail as you possibly can give it. It will then generate an answer for you. And obviously, we're using Wendy to begin with, and her as a new business owner and a sort of a unique entrepreneur. But again, we can apply this to any sort of field. Um, and so we can ask it one more question. So sort of let's look at pricing strategies. So based on the market from your cutoff point, can you recommend a suitable pricing strategy for this new venture? And again, gives it a second to begin. And so it will give us all the information again we need. So what type of pricing we can introduce. And again, these are all very, very general and high level, but at the same time, it does have the ability to whatever question you want to ask it, or whatever sort of detail or intent you have, that it will then be able to generate an effective answer for you. Um, and I suppose that gives a brief sort of introduction into how sort of Wendy would operate and how a new entrepreneur would come to the fore. So again, very general, high level questions, idea generation, many recommendations. Guess we could try one more, Wendy, before we move on to the next one. So content generation, as I mentioned, is a big factor. And in this sort of line of work with what Wendy is working in, a big one for her would be social media marketing. And so we can say, okay, we've set up an Instagram account for the brand. Can you give me some copy for an Instagram post with effective ranking hashtags and relevancy to the summer weather? And I suppose that's a little bit detailed, but you could basically just say, I have an Instagram account for the brand. Can you give me good, effective copy for an Instagram post with reference to it being summer? So again, it will do that. And then it will generate a fully fledged Instagram post with the right amount of emojis, with relevance to summer, and then also with providing us with a huge amount of hashtags that then we can go and use. And it's the same with so many of these areas. Another huge introspect with ChatGPT is its ability to create content. And another aspect might be creating blogs. So we can ask it to create a fully fledged blog. So create a top 10 list blog style article for my website with SEO keywords, SEO, I suppose, optimization. And so give it that as well. We don't even have to tell it what we want the article to be on. And again, it can completely do this again. So like, for example, this is really cool. So the top 10 must have summer outfits for little explorers. So again, taking the information that we've given it, we're a children's clothing brand with a focus on nature and animal prints. And it will give us a full top 10 blog that we can then go and post on our website, or post in an email marketing list, or basically anywhere. And it's full content. Usually there is some sort of like editing that can be done, and a lot of the time, again, it is just for idea generation, but it does have that ability. It's pretty cool. So let's go back and briefly open the presentation again and move on to the next example. 2 seconds. So the next example would be John Carey. And so John Carey, in this instance, runs a family restaurant, Letterkenny. During COVID, he began selling cook-at-home kits, which proved to be incredibly popular, so much so that his friends have encouraged him to consider selling them online. The only problem is John has little experience in digital marketing and doesn't even have a website for his business. So how can he utilize ChatGPT to lead him in the right direction? And so I guess this is where ChatGPT has the ability to sort of point and validate ideas, point people in the right direction, and also provide some technical advice. So let me just get a new chat ready, and we can go and explore John's specific situation. So going back to our ChatGPT window, and again, if any of you guys are having issues, just pop it in the chat there and I can support. So we have a new window now, and this time we're operating as John. And so one of the questions we can ask it or tell it, so we can say, I have very little technology experience, but I'm hoping to begin selling hampers online from my restaurant. My restaurant in Ireland. Where do I start about building a website? So straight in, gives us obviously again a brief overview. So we'll give you the steps that we need to do. So define your website's goals. So what is it that you want your website to achieve? Plan your website structure. Choose a domain name. So it will even give us each step for that. So what kind of domain name? Select a website platform. Design and customize your website. So we could choose a visually appealing template. Page creation. And so again, we can give it a spin. So we could say I'm looking to sell cook at home kits online. Suggest a name for this, and also a brand overview that I can use with relatively related to the fact that I operate in Ireland. And so give it that information, tell it what we're looking to do, and say, give us a name and an overview. So it's suggesting to us that we call it Taste of Ireland Home Cooking Kits, gives a fully fledged brand overview and copy that we can then use to add to our website or to put in a business plan. And so again, a Taste of Ireland, we bring the delightful flavors of Ireland directly to your kitchen. And so again, we can change this and mesh this and give it feedback. So we can say, whilst we are targeting the Irish market itself, so it can be so use this information. So again, in this case, it's sort of given us a taste of Ireland, but also because we're actually targeting the Irish market, again, it mightn't be fully relevant. So we tell it that we're targeting the Irish market itself. We can see if it gives us a more useful answer. So yeah, so for example, flavors of era. So now it knows that we're targeting the Irish market, so it's able to recognize that more people are more likely to understand the Gaelic interpretation of Ireland, and then as a result can provide information there. So it's really, really handy in that regard. So we've had that brand creation, we have an overview of how it works, and so next we can ask us to help us develop a brief website. So for example, and this is just showing you the more technical advantages of ChatGPT, but basically we can tell it to generate me a basic HTML website using the brand and copy above, and from there ChatGPT will start to fully write, using computer code, a fully fledged website for the business. So whilst John has come in without very little experience of technology and not really sure what plan he has in terms of going down the route of developing his brand, from ChatGPT, we've been able to get a name, a brand overview, and also a fully fledged HTML website. So obviously we're given this information, we're given this HTML, but we don't actually know what we need to do with it. So we can ask it, where can I place this? Get it online. So that's sort of the next step. And it will give us all the information we need from a technical point of view. It will make recommendations on how we do it, tell us how we can register a domain. upload website files, etc. So it again just giving you a brief sort of overview, generalized. But if you have specific queries or questions related to any of these steps, so for example, when it says configure DNS settings, if you're not sure what that means, or if you're in a similar situation where it's giving you just one piece of information, you can press it and ask it for as much detail and specification as you need, to the point where it can literally guide you step by step through whatever it is that you're doing. Another interesting one is like, again, understanding calculations and maths. Obviously, as ChatGPT is a computer, it does have the ability. So say, for example, John's not sure what type of pricing he should offer or how he should sell the product. So I'm trying to determine a pricing plan that will allow me with 20% margin. Right now, it costs me €20 to produce the kit, and directly technology costs amount to 1,500 a year, and marketing costs amount to €5,000 a year. Develop an effective pricing strategy based on this information. And again, break it all down. Start to do sort of basic calculations based on our profit margin, and give us a whole recommendation. Now, again, as I did specify at the beginning, I don't think this is an effective replacement for accounting or finance, but it does allow you to take an idea and to get an idea of whether it's feasible, or whether the costs add up, or whether this is something that's going to work out, just based on a couple of numbers and a brief overview of where it is you want to end up. And so it is able to give us a fully fledged mathematical workdown, give us a recommendation, and then based on how many kits we want to sell, we can add that to our system. But again, it's another example of how ChatGPT can work from a technical point of view, from a guidance point of view, and also can help a little bit with the numbers. And so before we take a quick break, let's just go through one more example. And so I can just share my screen. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I just missed there. Connor, sorry, I just saw in the chat there, Connor was having some issues. Were you able to sort that out? I'll have a look there. I think should be sharing okay. Give me 2 secs. I'm gonna just try share it again. Let's go back to the slides there for 1 second, just because we have one more case study to sort of run through. But I'll just check my screen share, and I'll try to share with a different method this time and see if that works. So obviously the two that we've looked at there, sort of sole trader style businesses, such as a new entrepreneur who's making our entrance into the world of business, and then obviously we had an established businessman with a new idea and sort of lack of technical understanding. So in this third case study, we have Flutter Marketing Agency, which is a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping small businesses like John Kerry's family restaurant thrive in the online world. Flutter too can benefit from leveraging the power of ChatGPT to assist in idea generation, improve productivity and efficiency, as well as market research. So let's see how. So we're going to go back. I'm just going to share my screen really quick to see if this works. Again, if anyone's having issues, let me know. So I'm going to share it using a different method. I'm going to come back and see if that's helped. Okay, so I'm back sharing. If you want to just shout, I'll keep an eye on the chat as I keep going through it in case anyone else is having issues. If you can't see, do let me know. So we're going to open up another new window here in ChatGPT, and this time we're sort of operating as Flutter, a marketing agency. And so in this case, John has come to Flutter to ask them to support in a digital marketing plan for the new business, Taste of Era. And so this is us operating as the marketing agency who are going to sell that on. So, for example, we can ask, can you recommend the most effective social media platforms for selling um, do-it-yourself food kits? So obviously, I think in most cases, any marketing agency will probably be able to answer these questions to a better ability than ChatGPT. But again, it's just as an example for the ability that it does have. So when it comes to DIY food kits, there are several media platforms that can be effective for promoting and selling your products. And so we'll give you a couple of recommendations. So Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, but TikTok and YouTube. So TikTok is an interesting one. It's a short form video platform, which I'm sure most of you probably know. But let's say we want to drive with TikTok and see how that would work. So we can say, give me some video suggestions for effectively marketing this TikTok. So we can say, give us some ideas. We can be more specific. What do you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve more views? Do we want to get more conversions? And so it can give us the whole sort of whole list of different different aspects, different tips. We could do a recipe demo, before and afters, quick tips and hacks, user generated content. And so, for example, let's run with this recipe demo. Let's go fully into it. So we can say, I want to create a recipe demo. Give me the basic script for cooking do it at home fillet steak, and the host is John Carey. So we can put that in, and it can give us a fully suggested script for creating our TikTok video. So it will give us the introduction, it will tell us who it is talking, it will give us the breakdown of how we're introducing it, the preparation, the entire start to finish aspect of what it is we're trying to do. So we've gone from a case where we're not sure how to market it, to what platform we want to use, to what kind of ideas it wants to generate to for us, down to the fact that it's even able to sort of generate a full-on script for us. And so that's one way of doing it. Sort of another question that we can ask it to do is to write 5 Instagram posts, or write five Instagram posts about our DIY kit, one for each type of recipe. So we have fillet steak, say we have fish curry, just trying to think of random food, stew, and then maybe shepherd's pie. And again, give it all the different information and give it as much high detail as we want. And it will literally go and write out 5 posts for all of the different recipe packs that we're offering, from start to finish, and obviously include all the relevant hashtags. It can do the same with emails. It can do the same with Twitter posts, Pinterest. Um, so so we can ask it even for design-based questions. So based on the information provided, can you recommend the most appropriate styling, colors, and fonts that we can use for this business? And so we give it that information, and it interprets everything we've told it so far. And although we have to specify, we haven't told it a huge amount. So we have told them what we're doing in terms of the DIY kits. We've told them the different types of food we're offering, and we've told them that we're based in Ireland. And from that, yeah, it will tell us. We haven't gave it any specific, but it will work with a generalization. This is again what I was sort of trying to specify with your single prompts or your multi-use prompts. In some cases, all you need to do is ask it a simple question and get an answer. Whereas in other cases, if you want detail, or if you want the highest level or the lowest level of information, you do need to just supply that in your prompts, whatever way you're asking your questions. So it's given us recommendations on styling and the clean and modern approach. It'll say minimalist design. It is being a little bit slow on me, so I might have to refresh as we go to a break in a sec. But as you can see again, it's just another example of what it can do in terms of creating a brand, creating a tone, and and giving us basically just those ideas and that content that we can go and use for our business. I'm going to leave this quickly generate, and I think I'm just going to take a quick break there in a couple of minutes. So after the break, we're going to go into a bit more on ChatGPT. This time we'll probably look at the more advanced aspects of it. And then really excitedly, just before we head into Q&A, we're going to go through some of the more advanced AI models that we're seeing. For example, creating fully fledged brands and websites directly, Auto GPT, which is autonomous GPT, which is very, very cool. And we're going to have a discussion on where I think AI is heading. Hopefully take some of your guys' feedback as well, and your questions, and move it from there. So as you can see, the answer it's given us is very detailed, recommendations on style, colors, fonts, and again, whatever step or aspect it gives us an answer on, we can take that and ask it more questions, ask it for more specifics, and ask us to delve further. So I'm going to take a quick 10-minute or 5 to 10 minute break, and yeah, we'll say we'll be back here in 10 minutes, and we'll go into the more advanced aspects of AI, some of the more advanced use cases with ChatGPT, and then a discussion as to where the future of artificial intelligence is heading in all fields. So should be back in 10 minutes. Thanks, guys. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Just going to give it another just minute there before I delve into the next part. As I said, so we're going to just briefly go through some of the uh, more advanced AI tools and some of the more independent tools that I find really, really exciting. Some of them will incorporate areas of ChatGPT, as we've seen already. As well as that, I'm gonna briefly take you through what I've been working on myself. Maybe get some of you guys' feedback on what we're doing in Sprio. Um, bit of a discussion on what I think is coming next in AI and how it can be a little bit exciting and also a little bit scary. Brief thoughts on regulations. Another question that we obviously are seeing in the press and the media a lot now is what's going to happen to our jobs and how long do we have our jobs left? So, well, I think there's a bit of mass hysteria there. It's also an interesting topic to cover. Um, and then, yeah, hopefully, if you guys have some questions, especially if you have them midway or if there's a specific area that I've covered or gone through that you're interested in hearing more about, or if you have a question about, please just pop them into the chat there. Going to run with a couple of polls, hopefully towards the end, just to get your guys' feedback and thoughts on how we did today, and if there's any questions you have, or if there's any ideas you have for what we could do in the future. Um, but yeah, without further ado, let's get back into it. So we talk about advanced AI and what we can expect to see or what we can see. Um, Advanced, it doesn't necessarily need to be more technically advanced or technically complex, but these are just some more generalized tools that are a little bit different from the one-to-one chat window. So incorporating additional tools that ChatGPT can't offer, um, looking at areas of visuals, images, videos, text, that kind of thing. So there's a few tools I'd like to briefly look at. So the first one is ChatGPT Plus. So ChatGPT have their own version of their own premium plan. So we've obviously used their free tool, and for 90% of cases and 90% of instances, I would recommend ChatGPT Plus free as sort of the gold standard. I don't really recommend generally that people consider the plus plan. However, there are some cool elements that it might help in some areas. So the first one, and I guess the most notable one, is ChatGPT Plus does come with some functionality or usage of GPT-4. And so as we briefly touched on GPT-4 earlier in the presentation, and how much of a step up it is from GPT 3.5 in terms of its data set and the knowledge that it has, it does present some advantages. Another advantage of ChatGPT Plus, and though it is in its infancy, is it does have the ability to browse the internet in real time. And so, as we've seen in the demonstrations we've ran through with ChatGPT, and the cutoff point of September 2021, it does cast a little bit of inaccuracy or a little bit of doubt in some of the data. And whilst in 99% of cases, it's fully like fully relative, fully accurate, or to the point, um, by having the access to the internet and by giving this brain and this mind knowledge to just surf the web and search any detail is huge. Um, some of the other interesting aspects of GPT Plus, which I'll just quickly share with you now, um, is the ability for it to have plugins. So ChatGPT, OpenAI have been working with some really interesting developers. So, for example, Kayak or Expedia, Slack. They're also working with some accounting software companies such as Sage and SAP to create automations and to create add-ons to ChatGPT. So by interlinking current systems, for example, if your business is using Slack or if your business is using Sage, by tapping into the power of GPT-4, which again is also internet enabled, it does present some really, really interesting use cases. So whilst I don't think it's a prerequisite, and whilst I don't think everybody needs to get the plus plan for ChatGPT, it is important to note that it is there. It does have access to GPT-4 with the internet enablement, although that is limited. And there are some interesting plugins that might be relative to you or your business. So I definitely recommend checking it out. But as I said, in most cases, I think regular ChatGPT is pretty good. Yeah, it's very good. Um, the next one is a tool called Midjourney, and this is one that really excites me. And so, as we've seen with ChatGPT, it is very good at providing us with information like sort of text or like idea generation, scripts, content. However, one of the missing factors, which is very obvious when we're playing around with it, is some sort of visual support or visual element. And as we've seen, AI shouldn't be limited to one text. The knowledge and the ability it has to work in visual space and create really cool and interesting assets and art and designs is great. And so one of the tools that are pushing this, or one of the companies that are pushing this, are Midjourney. And so Midjourney is a add-on or a tool built on its own intuitive AI that allows you to basically create any image or any visual just from a few lines of text. And so it's built using Discord, which, for those of you who don't know, Discord is a sort of a chat app. So if anyone has, I unfortunately can't share Discord with my screen today, but basically, if anyone is interested in learning how you can create content or create images using just a couple of lines of text, similar to what we do in ChatGPT, you can just tell Midjourney that this is your business. Um, this is what I'm doing, and this is the brand style, and draw me an image, or draw me a content piece, or draw me a piece for an Instagram post, and it will do it. And so this is one of the pieces that I use Midjourney to create. Now there is another tool that we'll briefly touch on in a couple of minutes that will allow us to do the same thing. But Midjourney, I think, is the leading AI tool for creating images and content. Another one, and very exciting one, that I find quite fascinating, is Auto GPT, which is autonomous GPT. And so this is a little bit more technically advanced, but what's being done here on an open source level is really exciting. So Auto GPT essentially is a piece of code that you install on your computer, which basically enables ChatGPT to run concurrently and autonomously. And whilst it's running, it is always working to improve itself and to get a better understanding of your requirements and your needs based on what you're using it for, but also your activity in the background. Um, One of the exciting things about Auto GPT is that you can deliver it loopable tasks and ask it to do things at certain points of the day or at certain times, or using certain tools. So obviously with ChatGPT, it is really great for idea generation and delivering content, and giving us direct one-to-one answers to questions. But when it comes to actually automating tasks, or asking it to deliver on an actual plan, it can't really leave the realm in which it operates in, which is the one-to-one chat window. Whereas by installing Auto GPT on your computer, you're basically giving it that sort of free reign to actually perform lots and lots of tasks. So one example that I was talking to a friend about recently was that he runs a marketing agency in India, and he basically asked Auto GPT to get from online a list of 150 restaurants that operate in his city or his area. Use Auto GPT to crawl and pull every single contact email for those restaurants, using the information on their websites, create detailed and personalized emails asking them if they would like a website developed for their business. And despite um, obviously not having much development knowledge himself, he was also able to use Auto GPT to automatically and concurrently create 150 example websites using just the GPT tool alone. And so it is these sort of tasks that we will probably see um, being sort of utilized by AI more as we go further. So obviously um, what we're seeing now with Auto GPT and Midjourney is sort of the low level of what these will be doing. But ultimately, I think it is tools like Auto GPT where they are performing tasks and doing as we please, that will sort of drive things going forward. And so I just seen, Stephen, you just asked the question there, the rough idea of the costs of Midjourney and Auto GPT. So all the tools I'm actually going to name after this are completely free. So Auto GPT is a little bit more technically advanced to install, but it is completely free to use. And again, if there's any more specific questions, or if any of you guys want me to run into any of these more specifically in the Q&A section, definitely ask your questions below. But yeah, they're all pretty free, which is handy. I'm not sure if they're going to be free forever, but yeah, I'll get it. Yeah, I just sorry, I saw another question there. I'll try get a demo up for Auto GPT right after this. Yeah, no problem. So another tool that is really exciting, and another free tool that anyone might be interested in having a look at is 10Web. And so 10Web specialize in creating artificial intelligence websites. And so an example of this would be what we sort of saw in the chat GPT, where we asked the bot to create a basic website using HTML for us. And so that's sort of the level that the chat GPT will go. They'll provide you with some code, provide you with some guidance. And in most cases, it's incredibly useful. 10Web goes a little bit further than that. They create fully fledged websites. They also create brand and logo ideas around the information you supply it with, and then allow you to extract that and publish it directly to the web, all within the tool. So I'll see if I can just get up a brief demo here. But all you really need to do is have an idea about your brand, have a semblance of a name or what it is that you want the site to do. And then all you need to do is just tell 10Web what it is, and it will go and create it for you and make it much more easy. Another really interesting aspect of 10Web, it only applies to sort of certain situations, but it also has the ability to recreate any website on the internet, and provide you with the source code or the source files to use it. So an example is we recently used 10Web in a client of mine because we were looking to migrate a website from one service provider, Squarespace, to another, which is WordPress. And so basically, we prompted 10Web to copy this website from this domain and allow it to be used on, say, WordPress. And so it was able to do that. And then there was obviously some small changes or tweaks that we would have to perform, but for the most case, it was able to completely recreate that website and allow us to use this new CMS and this new tool without having to harper up on all the work from the previous website. And so for those of you who work in web development, web design, you'll know how tricky it is to navigate between different website creators. And so by having 10Web as a tool, not just for building websites, but also for copying websites, I found it to be really, really great. It also works really, really well with WordPress for anyone who has a site on WordPress right now. Makes designing a little bit easier with their drag and drop. And also, I've found it's really, really, really good for performance enhancement. It has the ability to basically bring your website that might already even exist to a new level in terms of SEO optimization, speed and performance, which is such a killer feature now when Google are crawling websites for indexing and for ranking on their search engine. By having a high speed, high performance website that's fully optimized for mobile, that also might have been created with the help of AI is great. Again, I must stress that I don't think this would sort of operate as a replacement. I just feel like it's a really good tool to have a basis. So there obviously are some difficulties like integrating specific e-commerce aspects or specific integrations and plugins. But what I have found it is really good for is, again, just wireframing for giving myself ideas. And sometimes the AI will make suggestions for content or design that I mightn't necessarily have thought of, and then I can run with that idea while still working with it concurrently. And so I must stress that whilst these tools are really, really powerful and really great, we still are in that sort of era of like AI complementarianism where it can do really really good jobs, but at the same time it still just needs that like human input to like push it a bit further. And so again, who knows where it's going to end up, but for the most part it's been a really good tool. So again, 10 Web is another one I definitely recommend you checking out. um, After that is DALI 2. And so DALI 2 is similar to Midjourney in that it is for creating content, images, um, and visuals. And so DALI 2 is actually developed by OpenAI, which are the same guys that created ChatGPT, and it is also free. So I'm going to try and get a demo up here now of how we can create some visuals and some content. The only thing I have noted about DALI 2, if any of you are interested in trying it out, is that it does tend to crash a little bit. I think probably just because of the sheer power of it. But I do recommend a little hack that you could probably use is just try get in and use some of these tools as early in the morning as possible, so that you're not really not sort of going in when it's the highest sort of traffic point or when everyone's logged in. So DALI 2 is very, very similar to what we've just seen with ChatGPT. Very, very basic, straightforward layout, one search bar, and we can ask it basically to generate anything. So we'll be a little bit creative to start. We can ask it for a um, pixel art photo of a footballer scoring a goal, and let's see if it's able to give us something from there. So gives it a second to generate. Not as quick as ChatGPT I have found, but it is pretty good. The only thing I would stress is that if you're using this for, oh, here we go. So obviously it's just created some pixel art photos of us for us here, and so we can be more specific. We can ask it to do lots of things. This is probably literally scratching the surface of it, but we can also ask it for any type. So we can ask it for like an oil painting of the same description, and so we'll then take that again, put it into the AI and generate it. Now, I have found it can be a little bit inaccurate, so I feel if you were trying to promote a specific product or something that is very, very visual or visual heavy, it's not going to be able to fully replicate what it is that you're trying to promote. But for more general images, like if you're looking for sunny like images of like sort of people interacting or stock photo generation, I found it's really really good for that as well. It can really really do anything. This again is purely scratching the surface. um, so we can ask it for a photorealistic image of a family eating a picnic in the park, and say this will be a good example of what we can promote John Kerry's sort of DIY kits with. So you can see what it will give us here. I like some of its tips. So an astronaut lounging in a tropical resort in space, pixel art. And as you can see, like a lot of the times it is very detailed. And so sometimes I struggle to actually come up with sort of the best ways to sort of actually ask a question because it can be so detailed. And again, as you can see, like I have asked it for a photorealistic image here, and it does sometimes come up with some interesting outputs. So again, I wouldn't really look at this for actual content generation right now. I think it is a cool experimental tool, but what I am trying to convey here is these technologies are what's going to basically run things as well. And like I use Photoshop a lot for content design, and you can see that there's AI being integrated into these software tools as well, similar to what we're seeing on DALI here. Um, it does also have the ability to enhance and edit photos that you might have. And so in that case, I feel like it's pretty useful there. But I do recommend DALI 2. And again, like ChatGPT and some of the tools before, as just answering the question there, it is also a free tool. Um, at least I think for the first sort of 20 creations, there is a limit in terms of usage, but I don't think it's paid. I think they're just trying to allow as many people as possible to get through the server, because obviously there is huge demand in using this sort of experimental technology. But definitely recommend having a go with DALI. Again, it's not It's not quite there yet in terms of what it should be doing in terms of content generation for small businesses, but it's just another advanced AI tool that I think is going to definitely have a huge impact going forward. And as you can see from the photo above, there's been some really interesting outputs from it. Um, Another tool that I think is really, really interesting and I've found has been incredibly useful for content generation as well is one called Speechify. And so Speechify is in most cases similar to a text to speech program in that you input some text or input some text into this tool and it gives you a back in speech. So obviously this has been a technology that's been around for nearly 30 years. However, the pure accuracy and the human nature of the voice generation that Speechify is able to create, found has been very, very valuable for testing ideas around voiceover to creating video tutorials or video demonstrations of products or tools that I might be sharing. It's able to create a real sort of human voice that doesn't sound very like sort of clunky or technical. And I have found it's been really, really useful again for just testing different things, trying out some voiceovers over different videos and seeing if a certain type of voice would be a good fit for a certain type of demonstration. So Speechify is another one that's really, really cool. And it's also able to detect tone and context as well using AI. So if anyone's interested in sort of that area of text to speech and how it can be utilized in their business, it's another really, really cool one that I definitely recommend checking out. And then another one which is really fascinating to me and a little bit scary is Synthesia. And so Synthesia is an AI video generation platform. And essentially, what that has the ability to do is using artificial intelligence, it can create human beings that you can interact with and also provide provide transcripts to. So this is one of the sources, I guess, of recent paranoia around the world of deep fakes. It's this technology that's being developed by Synthesia, and whilst those deep fakes have sort of created a bit of a negative stir, I think they can provide some usefulness to small businesses. Again, in the area of potential content generation or sort of promotional video usage, it can be really cool. And so the flow that I've been sort of testing and demonstrating with has been around a fully fledged advertisement created using AI. So as we saw in the first instance with ChatGPT, we were able to generate a script for a video that we wanted to create on TikTok. And so we could take that script, upload it to Speechify, which we just saw in the previous slide, and create a fully human voice. And then we can upload the transcript created from that human voice to a tool like Synthesia that then can put the voice to a human, create a human around the voice, and actually create an advertisement. So it's a little bit scary. It's something that is just it's just an experimental tool, and I'll be able to give you guys sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on the quick Q and A's there. I'll give you guys a demo, but this is just another really cool tool that I've found to be very interesting. And then, as we mentioned at the beginning, Intercom, a very successful Irish company, have recently introduced a tool called Fin, which basically connects to their very popular chatbot that you might see in the bottom right of many websites and adds an AI element to it. So it allows you to essentially train your chatbot to go beyond the world of detecting potential questions. I think we've all been in situations before where we've been on the website, we've been trying to access customer service or customer support, and we're dealt with this very mundane chatbot that is sort of recommending articles or recommending suggestions to us. And for the average consumer, that could be a very, very frustrating process. And it's also very, very, very obvious to be able to tell when you're dealing with a back and forth chat bot. But by incorporating like high end artificial intelligence, like what Intercom are doing, they're able to go beyond the scope of canned responses. And you're actually able to train your AI, as you would say with a customer service team or the agents that you might have, to also operate in a similar manner. where they're able to understand edge cases and they're able to process specific issues that you might be having, such as say when you're dealing with a flight, an airline, and you want a cancellation. And so it's something that's a little bit experimental. Again, a lot of these are, it's something that's it's new and it's coming to the forefront, but they are available to play around with. They are available to test, and it might be able to help improve some efficiency. I don't think again these act as direct replacements, but I think it does help to improve efficiency. Um, allow staff to work on other issues, whilst the AI can run some of the canned responses. And so I definitely recommend, if you do have a chatbot or if you are having some sort of customer support on your website, to do have a look at Fin and what they're doing at Intercom. And there are also some other alternative chatbot providers like Live Chat and Crisp that are also experimenting with their own artificial intelligence tools. And so ultimately, what I think these are doing right now is just helping support the customer service team in providing the quickest and most effective answers to customers. And so I guess those are the tools that I wanted to briefly touch on. Again, in the Q&A, if there's any questions, please throw them into the chat there, and I'll get to them and hopefully get a demo across. Briefly, just wanted to touch on what I'm working on with Sprio. So Sprio.ai. It's a new venture of mine dedicated to enhancing and supporting small businesses in and through the world of artificial intelligence. And so, like what we're going with ChatGPT, that sort of one-to-one window where we're asking questions, idea generation, content generation, different strategies that I can incorporate. So we're just basically taking that similar model, but putting it into a fully fledged one-stop shop solution where we're also able to integrate with accounting software, with different tools like social media scheduling. So instead of using just ChatGPT to create ideas for Instagram posts or content, you could potentially use a tool like this to create the content and automatically schedule it to go posting as well. So it's just trying to improve efficiency for small businesses, trying to introduce many people to the world of AI and how it can be leveraged. And so if there's anyone that's interested in learning more, or we're definitely on the lookout for whatever support we can get with ideas or suggestions for what we can put in the technology, definitely do get in touch. And then let's just move into what's next in AI. So this is an area that I really interested in talking about, and I think this is very relevant to a lot of small businesses who are trying to figure out initially what's happening in AI to start, but also where it's heading. And so I was recently speaking on a panel about artificial intelligence and whether it will be used for mass personalization or mass privacy. Because as we mentioned, one of the main cogs that AI is used for right now is fraud detection and privacy. But I think the way it is actually probably heading right now is one towards mass personalization. I think it's something that we should be aware of as companies like Google and Bing and Microsoft begin to produce these AI technologies that are able to learn off you, learn more about your preferences, learn about what it is that you actually want, that people and consumers will gradually start to expect similar. And so whether it's simple things like changing the color of your website based on what person is joining, or putting the right content in front of them, which is stuff that we see already happening, to mass personalization on a scale that we've never seen. And so I'm not sure if many of you guys watch Netflix, but there was a recent episode of Black Mirror that went out last week called Jonah's Awful, and it basically perpetrates the perfect example of how artificial intelligence will deliver this mass personalization. I definitely recommend anyone to check it out if they get a chance. I think that's definitely the way we're headed from an AI point of view. I also think it's going to have a huge impact on entertainment. The Apple last week launched their Vision Pro, and as we kind of touched briefly on mass personalization, the ability to create artificial intelligence around characters and around our own desires is just where this is gonna head, I think. Then just briefly again, I just want to give a little bit of time for the Q&A. My thoughts on regulation. It's obviously a very sort of tricky sort of area right now, and as we said, there are a lot of people on both sides that one are in favor of full innovation and full freedom for these technology companies to create these products, because obviously once we stop innovating, we're kind of at the end of everything there. And so there is definitely an argument for allowing these technology companies that are working on these advanced tools to have that freedom to be able to create these technologies and put them into in front of us. And it's the reason why we're talking about AI right now, is because it has been sort of perpetrated to the mainstream, and anyone right now can tap into this amazing tool. Um, but at the same time, as we've said, as the dangers begin to become more obvious of putting a tool like this into the wrong hands, whereas it's simple things like what we're seeing with deep fakes right now, and sort of issues around sort of bias and fairness, and then obviously to like a bigger picture down the line where it's issues around defense. I think there is probably an argument for some level of regulation. At the end of the day, if it's going to be these tools that are going to be delivering mass personalization, it can't all be from a private perspective. At least that's what I think. Again, another question that we see a lot is what's going to happen to our jobs, and are we heading towards an area of singularity? I do think it's definitely something that has scared me, especially when I was first exposed to ChatGPT last October as a software engineer. Being able to see a robot or a bot being able to generate computer code to a similar standard of what I would try for was a little bit concerning. But I do think it is a little bit far fetched as well. I think depending on how we regulate, but also depending on how we incorporate these tools into our businesses, I don't necessarily see it as a replacement, but I see it as an enhancement, and I think it's going to allow us to improve efficiency, to improve the consumer and the customer experience, and to enjoy our jobs and get our jobs done better, um, rather than a direct replacement, at least in the short to medium term future. Obviously, as this technology begins to advance and advance and advance, it can pose a little bit of fear. But for the most part, I think our jobs are pretty safe, and I think if anything, AI is only going to enhance and allow us to deliver those jobs better. And so I guess that's just sort of the closing reflection. Again, the future is one that really really excites me. AI is such a really 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 big and expansive area, and as I hope I've demonstrated today, it's such an important time to just try and get at least some sort of knowledge or some sort of basis for what it is, and especially if you can get in now, or incorporate or leverage it in your own business at this stage, it's a huge head start on everyone, believe me. I think, like I said, I think AI is purely a pure black swan event. I think similar to what the internet did, but that took 20 years, and similar to what the iPhone did, which took 10. What AI has the potential to do just over the next year or so, um, is really really exciting. Again, a little bit scary, but definitely one, for me, of optimism, and hope. And hopefully today, I've been able to give you a brief introduction into what we are doing with AI. Hopefully you've been able to garner some of the skill sets or the tools needed to get used to ChatGPT and to start leveraging it within your own business. And hopefully as well, we've been able to sort of give you an idea of some of the up and coming or new tools or more advanced AI features, um, that are coming about. And without further ado, then I think we can move to a Q&A. So I did see that there was a couple of questions in there already. But if you do have any questions at all, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And also, if you have any questions, we're going to deliver a few polls around as well, if you don't mind staying. Um, yeah, I think we'll be able to share the presentation. I think we're recording this as well to be distributed, so everything you've seen here today, will be accessible. Again, if any specific questions, please feel free to fire. If not, I'm just going to make my way up through the backlog there and see if there's any ones that I can pick out. Also, just if you can see in the poll section to the right of the chat, we're just going to ask a quick poll based on your feedback for how you've enjoyed the session, or if there's any thing you'd like to learn more about in the future. Just give me 2 seconds and I'll get that live. Really would appreciate any thoughts or feedback, as well as any questions. So it'll be 2 seconds. So that's going to be going live now into the chat. So right. So yeah, so any good website creator that includes artificial intelligence. So that's a really good question. Trupa, I think I'm saying that right. So yeah, so one big one for me is the 10 web tool, which we had a brief look at there. So if I just share my screen really quickly, you'll be able to see this. So this is 10web.io. I'll share the link in here. And so again, essentially, this allows you to basically deliver an idea, a couple of lines of text to 10web, and they will basically generate a blanket website that you can then go and customize. However, what I have started to see is AI is basically being incorporated into most modern day web builders right now. So a big one that I would recommend, especially to someone who's starting out to create a website for the first time, would be Wix.com. Wix have a really good drag and drop builder for creating the site. They're able to provide templates, and they've also recently began to incorporate artificial intelligence and AI into their sort of creation tools. So they're able to generate a blanket website based on a prompt, and also able to generate copy using AI. So I definitely recommend either 10web if you're starting out and they're just looking for a blanket site. But then if you're looking at one of the more contemporary or established website builders, I definitely would recommend Wix. I think they're starting to incorporate a lot of AI, and they have a good partnership with Google, which usually helps with SEO and search ranking. So I just saw Paul. So our most AI online software is built through Amazon AWS. So that's a good question. I think so. Amazon AWS is basically, I guess, one of the main sort of data. I guess to simplify it, is a huge data storage unit that's run by Amazon. So whilst Amazon are creating their own artificial intelligence, and whilst OpenAI have created their own GPT artificial intelligence, they wouldn't be, I guess, created through or built through AWS, but they probably would be stored there. So AWS basically store a good percentage of all of the content on the internet, and so I wouldn't be surprised if there is some artificial intelligence software or technology being stored there. But for the most part, I think the biggest player in modern in mainstream artificial intelligence is definitely OpenAI, and what they're doing with ChatGPT. As I mentioned, Microsoft recently completed a huge investment in them, and they're starting to incorporate OpenAI tools directly into their products, as well as their chat. Google have released their own competitor called Bard, and whilst it is a competitor, I do understand that a lot of the technology running that is also on GPT. So I think the biggest one is definitely OpenAI right now. It's always recommended any video creators. Yeah, there. It's a good question as well. It's not something that I've come across a lot of. I think the big one right now is images and visuals, and sort of that static content. I definitely think, though, there are some tools that I guess would be off away from sort of a public mainstream, that are able to actually generate fully fledged sort of feature films. There's not one that I would directly be able to recommend. It's definitely something I'll consider for the future. But what I have noticed, as I just mentioned there, Microsoft, who have recently completed an investment in OpenAI, are starting to incorporate that AI into their own tools. And so whether that be the Microsoft Office suite, it may also include some of the video editing tools that they have on offer. So definitely keep an eye out on that. It does require a lot of sort of data and a lot of usage right now to just be able to even generate the static images and the one-off images using AI. But what I definitely will see, and it's also something that was touched on briefly in the Netflix documentary, or the Netflix show I recommended there, is how AI is going to be used to create movies and videos. So yeah, I saw the same with Lorraine there. Yeah, I definitely recommend. There are some good tools online. I'll try and see if I can get some up. I think for anyone that has a Mac or as anyone that's more advanced, I definitely recommend sort of the Adobe products, and they're also starting to introduce AI. And they do have some sort of beginner level video editing software. So any of the Creative Cloud products there. Then also, if you're on an Apple Mac, iMovie is quite good. I'm pretty sure Windows have Windows Movie Maker. I'll see if I can get some specific AI video software around, but I'll see what I can do there. So Helen asked, will content created through AI be treated negatively by Google? Will AI content be labeled as such? So that's again, it's a pretty good question. I think there are technologies that are now being incorporated to detect when AI is creating the content. And so I think the biggest use case of this is what we're seeing in like education and in universities and schools, where some smart students might have decided to utilize ChatGPT with homework and exam assignments. So there is technology being utilized there. Um, However, I don't think this is something that Google are currently considering in how they crawl and index pages. I think with ChatGPT, it does allow you to actually enhance your content in many ways. You can provide ChatGPT with lists of relevant keywords that you feel will affect your SEO positively when creating content or modifying content. So whilst it is something that might be considered in the future, that AI detection tools definitely do exist. Right now, a lot of my clients and myself included, I definitely have found that ChatGPT has actually more positively impacted my search engine optimization and has allowed me to target specific keywords to generate really good, relevant bulk content. And as Google are probably leveraging AI more within their own search products, and the same with Bing and Yahoo, I don't expect I don't expect it to have a negative implication. Um, I just saw there Danny was also asking about um, GDPR and copyright. Um, yeah, I think so. There is a case around sort of privacy and copyright and how you protect yourself, and there is a little bit of ambiguity there when it comes to artificial intelligence. I think if you're I think I've seen some people try to create privacy policies and terms and conditions using ChatGPT and tools like that. But I wouldn't definitely recommend that. I think for that sort of area, it's definitely seeking legal advice. But there are a little bit of ambiguity. I think when you do sign up for some of these tools, whilst they are very good and very strong, there are you obviously are divulging some information when you do use them. So I just think take caution as you would with signing up for any tool or any privacy tool. Again, questions around copyright and who takes ownership of content that might be AI generated. These are some of the ambiguous aspects that I think will probably be ironed out in the next couple of months, to next year or so, when it does come to a point of regulation and we start to kind of have a more broad discussion around ownership and, like you said there, like GDPR, copyright, how that will all affect it. Um, but yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting one. I just saw there was a couple of people there that were looking to contact me, so I just have a brief bit on my slide there, just with some of my details. Um, yeah, so those are my details. If any of you guys have any further questions going down the line, or if you'd like to follow some of the stuff I'm doing, those are my contact details. Yeah, if there's any more questions, again, I'm very happy to answer. Let's see if I've missed any of them. Um, but I guess yeah, for the most part, yeah. If there's any more, or if you please again feel free to answer in the poll, whatever you have. Um, but yeah, those are my details. Any questions going forward? If there's any advice you need or anything you'd like my help with from an AI perspective, yeah, really appreciate it. Oh, just seen another one there from Eddie. Um, so yeah, that's a good question. So what I'm working, yeah, exactly. What I'm working in with Sprio now, I have noticed that there is a lot of interest, and there are I am getting a lot more questions around incorporating it. I think with workshops like this and with seminars and with further knowledge sort of being sort of catapulted to the mainstream, more and more people are sort of getting an understanding. But it is something that I haven't really seen um, massively from sort of my specific clients in terms of going from idea generation to fully fledged brand. What I have noticed is most of them are using it to update current content, to validate ideas that are already there. So it is very popular. But as I said, there can be some limitations to ChatGPT. Whilst it is really, really amazing and probably the best tool out there right now, it can't leave beyond the chat window. And so hopefully what we're doing with Sprio and what we introduce soon with Sprio will allow people to get that same content and idea generation from GPT and what that provides, but also be able to integrate that directly with the tools that they use. So for example, like we said, content generation and social media posts, but actually being able to schedule and post them automatically is something that we'd like to introduce too. Um, but yeah, I think if there's not any more questions, I really really appreciate the feedback, and I really really appreciate you guys for sticking with me throughout the course. Again, any feedback, any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. I'm not sure, Stephen, if you have and if you want to come in with anything else, but yeah, really appreciate your time, everyone, and again, definitely keep in touch with any questions you might have.